On today's 30-minute music marketing, 5 ways in which you could be sabotaging your own music career.
Cue title sequence.
Boom.
30-minute music marketing for musicians who want to get better at marketing their music.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hi, I'm Sheldon. This is 30-minute music marketing, the show for independent artists and DIY musicians who want to get better at marketing their music. Thanks very much for tuning in and watching this week's episode or listening to it in the ears in a podcast format. Thanks for doing that. If you're watching on a YouTube, click subscribe. Are you going to get that
I'll
animated graphic up?
I might change it and put a different one.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, just so we drop in to your electronic device once a week. Now then, Greg, last week we had a deep dive and we were discussing how really you should see your music career as a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep.
Slow, small, incremental steps, and how
Yep.
you shouldn't necessarily look at all these big signed pop acts who over the course of, what seemingly just a couple of
weeks.
months seem to go from obscurity to filling out stadiums and arenas and that sort of thing.
Yep.
But, and I thought, as a logical progression, how about doing an episode whereby if you are a DIY musician out there, you are an independent artist, and you've been doing this for maybe quite a while, moderate period of time, what should you...
Are you going to give an estimation on what a moderate period of time
I'm
would
not
be?
going to define
Excuse me.
But in the case of, I think we were discussing last week's deep dive was inspired by a band who'd been going for 3 years
And decided to throw the towel in.
and decided to quit it again for whatever reason. But I do know of a lot of acts and a lot of individuals who after a certain period of time, maybe
They haven't had the success they feel they are deserved or owed.
Yes,
Right.
or that they necessarily want, and they sort of give up. And I'm very much of the opinion that maybe rather than giving up, what you need to do is you need to undertake a period of reflection and self-evaluation and try and figure out, rather than just giving up, where you're actually going wrong in order that you can adapt and improve and carry on going and doing the thing that you enjoy doing, which is obviously making music, which I know for a lot of us, it's that burning thing inside us. We have no control over it. We have to be creative. It's what we feel as though we were born to do. But again, rather than eternally getting frustrated at the fact that maybe for some reason this isn't working, we can maybe assess what I think are maybe 5 large reasons as to why things aren't necessarily working. And hopefully, if you feel as though any of these are appropriate to you, again, you can go on that path of adapting and amending your music career. So we'll go through them all one by one, and we'll see how we get on, and we'll see if any of you folk at home agree with any of these.
I'd be curious to know whether they will agree with all of these.
Well, you don't necessarily need to agree with all of them, and indeed it may
Some
well
of
be that as a box-ticking exercise, you think, oh, well, after listening to that, I don't think any of those are applicable to me, and you might consider your music career to be on the right track. But if you're not progressing as fast as you'd like, if you are releasing singles and music videos and your views and streams are in the hundreds rather than the thousands and the tens of thousands, what I would ask you to do is have a listen to and a watch of the 5 points that we're going to mention and discuss here, and just see if are any of these applicable to you.
So, if you're suffering from no attention, no traction, and you're not growing an audience, number one is going to be, this is going to be a tough pill to swallow. Your songs aren't quite there yet.
Yet. See, we'll put the yet at the end. I have to say, Greg, in all the years that I've been currently doing my sort of musical project, I think I've released, it's about, I forget how many albums it is, it might be about
a few.
11. And really, if you ask me how many good songs are on there, it's like, not just good songs, how many really good songs are on there? It may well be only about sort of maybe 10 or so. I will say this now, writing songs, relatively easy. Writing good songs, not even good songs, great songs, brilliant songs, it's one of the hardest things in the world.
Oh, it's a tough act. I mean, if you're like someone like Kathy Dennis or Dionne Warwick, both
Not
songwriters.
Max Spielman. What's his name? Who wrote
Max Spielman, isn't
Britney
that a
Spears.
photographer?
Yeah, I know. It was a gag.
Oh,
Leverton.
sorry.
Goodness me, lost on him.
Yes,
No, not Max Miller. No, that's 1950s comedian.
Max Bygraves.
Max Bygraves. No, show me age now.
Robert
The fellow wrote "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time."
Oh, okay. Well, Kathy Dennis wrote some Britney Spears stuff too.
So, professional songwriters, they exist for a reason, because lots of artists themselves, again, especially in the popular music sphere, the formula of trying to write great songs is a hard one to replicate for a lot of people. When you release a single, and stick it up on your streaming services or what have you, the thing you've got to realise is that in terms of competition, in terms of back catalogue, you're going up against not only the very popular modern music of the day, but all the greatest hits of your particular genre from now right back through to recorded music when it was invented. That's a lot of competition. So, we can take some of the greatest songs that have ever been recorded in whatever sort of genre, and then we place yours next to it, side-by-side comparison. I know that particular, your particular song might be very important to you, but if I whack your song in a playlist of all your musical contemporaries, both past and present, is it going to cut the mustard? And if not, then it's probably not going to work out as successfully as you might have hoped.
And I suppose we talked about this the other week in terms of the importance of playlists. And on Spotify, as an example, in that respect, your record has got to basically slot in between all those other records.
Yeah, there has to be, both a sonic parity,
yep.
and it has to be of an acceptable. It's got to hold its own again next to the best in the world, because that when people create playlists, whether it be algorithmically generated or curated by a human, you are going up against what might necessarily be the best of modern music, past and present.
Yeah.
So, and the thing you have to remember is that if you're writing and releasing average songs, then you're going to get average results. There's no two ways about it. And not many people, I don't really see anybody in terms of, when they're making videos such as this and when they're offering marketing advice, no one ever goes, if your music's bobbins, then you ain't going to get very far. So let me do that for you now. I've only got your own, your best intentions at heart. And the thing is that because you are the author and creator, maybe as part of an ensemble of this particular music, in terms of objectivity, you maybe not necessarily got the most objective outlook as to the quality of your particular music. And it may well be that your friends, your musical colleagues, and your nearest and dearest might not necessarily have that same level of objectivity. Here's an example. I was talking to you this particular anecdote last week when I was trying to provide some help and assistance to a group of younger musicians the other year, and they presented their latest song. I think it might have been a demo sort of stage, and I was listening to it and go, oh yeah, this has got some good points. And I said, the chorus, however. Chorus is a little weak. If you're going to release this, you're really going to need to change the melody of the chorus, because I don't think it's strong enough. And the lead singer in question
I've just remembered now what band this is. So
yes, and the lead singer in question said, well, my dad thinks it's all right. And he's like, your dad's probably not the best judge. Again, he's probably not the most objective person when it comes to modern music. I mean, it is hard trying to get someone's opinion as to whether.
Yeah, but usually, if you're younger, if your dad says something's good, that should be setting alarm bells off to say, I need to change that, because that's not cool.
Yes, if it's appealing to a generation potentially old, a generation older than yourself, that might not necessarily be the best thing. Now, in terms of objectivity and trying to get honest reviews of your music, there are. I did do some research. A couple of sites. One's called Audio Kite.
I did see that. I've never heard of it before.
Well, you're you're not hot on all the things like me. And Reverb Nation do Reverb Nation crowd reviews. And what you do is, you pay a modest fee, you submit your music to these services, and they've got users who will listen to your music and, rate and review
With
it.
a critical ear?
Yes, and provide some form of feedback to, potentially give you a...
Do you know what the cost of that is?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Oh, right.
I'm not a walking price encyclopedia.
But I mean, it's one of those things that, it's a shortcut way of a fashion to get some expert advice.
And again, a different ear, because, I can do that, I often do this myself. You are so close to something, you can't necessarily see how what you're writing how it will be heard by external sort of third parties. Another thing you could do is you could go into have a chat with and maybe an external producer, or go to someone in a recording studio and basically play them the demo or whatever version of the song that you've got, and just say to them, right, how would you make that better? And I think that's the even if you've already recorded the song before. Because the thing you've got to remember is that if you've recorded a song once and you feel as though, well, maybe it was all right for the time, but maybe we played it live differently now, or you feel as though there's a nub of a great song here, but it still needs somebody to work on it and expand upon it. There's nothing to stop you re-recording that with someone else who might be able to put a different particular spin on it, or develop it, or improve it. Because the majority of people, again, in our country, if there's 70 million people in the UK and you've only had even like 5,000 streams on it, there's still 70 million people who haven't heard that piece of music. So don't worry about necessarily re-recording your own material.
There's a lot of people, we can't do that. It's like, well, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Because no one's heard it yet. The thing is that piece of music, however old it might be, it will still be new to the people who haven't heard it yet.
I mean, in terms of, I do know that from past experience, you get a lot of low key bands who will go to work with a particular producer who specialises in one sound. I mean, to me, if you want to sound like everyone else, then that would be a great way to go. But how on earth are you going to be distinguished amongst everyone else? And so I would actually say, perhaps go, because you'll verify this for me. U2, Bono, don't they purposefully work with producers who don't listen to their music?
That I don't know.
And that's why they worked with like a variety of people, like, Brian Eno and stuff like that, where they went, we want a completely external perspective to push our music onto the next stage. And to me, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying, what your music, all music is subjective, as we know. And I'm not necessarily here to say that your music is good or is bad. But I think if you feel as though you can't objectively criticise your music and say whether it needs to be better or not, maybe try and find some sort of external, I'll use the term critic in its loosest possible sense, but external third party who'll be able to have a look at it and maybe provide you with an opinion that might be more objective than your own. That's an excellent way to sum up our first point.
So otherwise, and in other words, basically send a link in the description beneath and I'll slag it off. No, not really.
No, we won't do that.
So
we might scratch our chins but that's the thing though, people don't like, somebody might play you a piece of music and with an expectant smile on their face and go, oh, Greg, what do you think of that? And you might turn around and go, yeah, that's all right, that. When you really want to go, oh, that's absolute bobbins, mate.
No, I think I would go the route of Simon Cowell because it's in their best interest.
But you've got to sugarcoat it a little.
I know.
Anyway, that's the point number one.
So point number two, I'm going to have to read this. You could be in a too broad a genre.
Too broad a genre.
What do you mean by this?
Well, like, say, for example, indie music, rock music, metal. Those are meta-genres, as it were. They collectively cover a very wide berth, wide spectrum of different, maybe sort of subgenres. And it may well be that if you're creating music that you feel might appeal to a wide range of people, what you potentially might end up doing is appealing to nobody because it's too broad. It's a bit like...
But I thought bands just love to sub-niche themselves into genres that you've never heard of.
Well,
I
don't
would
know.
say people then don't discover it.
Again, when you were saying in the previous point about artists and bands potentially trying to make music that sounds like everybody else.
Yes.
And really what we need to do in this this day of... We've got content coming out of our ears, and the last thing we necessarily need is more music that sounds like the music that we've already got. That really what we need to do is we need to lose the broad focus that we have in terms of making our music, and try and narrow down in maybe a sub niche or subgenre that we're really good at, or a sub niche or genre subgenre that we really stand out in.
I think in some respects, I've certainly seen this with metal artists. They're so caught up in trying to sound like their peers, to be accepted within that community, that they end up becoming a pale version of their peers. And you might as well, if I'm going to listen to something like that, I might as well listen to an already established brand, which I know exactly what I'm going to get. I mean, so yeah, I think you and I have spoken many times about the joys of jingly jangly guitar music, and it's just like, how on earth can you compete when it's exactly the same?
And what you generally tend to find is that fans of musical niches or musical subgenres, they tend to be really into that particular genre, whereas your casual music fan who likes a broad range of music, they tend to be fair weather music fans. Whereas if you're actually after the sort of people who will come to your shows and will buy your merch, they tend to lie in those specific niches rather than just a general average music fan of that particular genre. You're going more for the hardcore fan. As I say, they normally exist within niches. So they are, it may well be that by going small and narrow is a better way to achieving success, rather than trying to appeal to everybody. Because again, even in terms of marketing and marketing spend, trying to reach everybody in painting a very broad canvas, you're never going to have the money to do it.
When we did that Facebook thing with the targeted Facebook ad campaign, which is in one of the previous episodes, you purposely went to quite specific to make sure that you had the best response rather than the best reach.
Yes. Trying to create audiences from out of small artists occupying sort of one particular niche rather than larger artists. So again, the almost like the category is too broad.
And this will effectively end up kind of reinforcing what we discussed last week, which is that this then becomes definitely a marathon, not a sprint, but it should be more, you should get more out of it because you're getting the response that you want. I mean, I presume everybody wants immediate success overnight, but...
It'd be nice.
Yes, it would. But it's not. So I think, yeah, you're right. Although it sounds quite limiting, in fact, it's about maximising the return a quality return rather than just overall exposure.
Yes, so go narrow potentially rather than broad.
So this moves nicely on to number 3.
Number 3.
You are targeting the wrong audience or the wrong genre.
So I've written down here, are you writing music for the right audience? Imagine, Greg, if I was an older man in his 70s. I know. Given it's not so far away these days, is it? But if I was going right, I want to make pop music now, and pop music that'll appeal to the teenage crowd, young people, 14, 15, 16, who are very much the pop target audience. They're not going to want to listen to pop music made by a 70-year-old bloke. I'm trying
Is
to
that aimed
write...
at Paul McCartney?
Don't get me started on Paul McCartney. He's had some success. Well done to him for that, but let's...
Yeah, that was he's had his place. Let's move on.
So you could be aiming for an audience that doesn't necessarily want your music, or you could be, trying to to write music. That again, that really it's the wrong genre for you.
How many Facebook ads have you seen for bands that you in a genre that?
Oh, quite a few. I do normally post some of them on my 60-second music magazine Facebook page or
come to this gig to watch a metal band in London. It's like, I don't like metal and I live in Liverpool.
So a few years ago, I created what I thought is a unique way to approach and to look at the whole aspect of music marketing. I thought I'd created like a fantastically winning system that was unique to me until I saw it on somebody else's internet page. So it wasn't mine, but great minds think alike. And Venn diagrams, I'm sure you're aware of what a Venn diagram is.
No.
When you got like three circles and they're all different things, where they overlap.
Okay, right. So a bit like the Olympic symbol.
Yeah.
Right, okay, gotcha.
So I in my mind, I created this system, let's call it the Sheldon system, of successful music careers. Circle number 1 is, what are you good at? In terms of you as a musician, songwriter, creating music, what are you actually good at? Second circle is, what do you like doing? And the third circle is, what do people actually want from you? Now, in my previous musical project,
you really can't make this up because it sounds daft.
It sounds daft,
but it's true.
It's absolutely true. So let's ignore my current musical project. My previous musical project, which is basically the same people, but we were like electronic music, live electronic music, EDM, as I believe you young people call it.
I do think actually I have the stuff from Hey Call that I could put a little snippet in.
You're all right. You don't need to do
that.
Okay. So what are you good at? We were quite good at it. I won't say we were stellar or world class. We were quite good at it. So that's circle number 1.
It was fun.
Okay.
And it was...
Circle number 2. Do you enjoy doing it? Oh, we really enjoyed doing it. Circle number 3. Did people really want it? Yeah, it was all right. That didn't necessarily work out for us. In our current musical project, which was a complete musical, 360, it's like, it turns out we're really good at this particular genre of music. It turns out we really like doing it. It's almost like we found our calling. And 3, the public really, really like it. 3 boxes ticked. Fine. That's the perfect recipe for success. Like if you're a pop music artist, it could well be that you really like doing it. The public really likes it. However, you want to be considered a serious artist. So circle number 2 isn't ticked. So that's never going to end up a success. So it may well be that really, if you're doing EDM, it could well be that maybe I've always fancied doing a little bit of country. It may well be that you need to set up some sort of side project, because that's what my current musical project ended up. Well, it started off as a side project and ended up as a full-time sort of thing. So it could well be that maybe you need to try and test the waters for some other, musical genres, musical concepts, musical ideas, and see whether A, you're good at it, B, you enjoy doing it, and it may well be that actually that's what you should be doing with your musical career, not currently what you're doing now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think to begin with, you were a little disappointed that more people liked the folk stuff than the electronic stuff, because knowing you for as long as I have, you used like your synthesizers and your samplers and doing all that kind of music technology
those
stuff.
Those were the days.
And, and there are video footage of him jumping around like a nutter on stage. But as time has progressed with the folk band, comedy folk, it's like now you enjoy that probably way more because you get the response you've always wanted, and I think you get the most response. You get the most enjoyment from the reception.
It could still well be that we could be playing to hundreds of people every weekend, which we do, but it might still not be what I want to do or what the rest of us want to do. But it's again, in terms of those 3 circles, all 3 boxes are ticked. And that means that in terms of us and continuing our music career, we've been doing it sort of 12 years. And in some respects, I feel as though I've only just sort of started.
Yeah.
However, again, if for whatever reason, well, A, if you're not good at it, then you're not necessarily going to get the audience. Or B, you could be good at it, and you don't really like doing it, you resent doing it, or you want to move off into other areas. And it's never really going to be a long-lasting sort of music career. So I think you've those three boxes have got to be ticked, and it may well be that just as a side project, you maybe need to, if you have all these musical itches which you feel as though you need to scratch, I'm not necessarily saying abandon your core musical principles, but maybe try something else in a different sort of musical style, because it could well be that's the thing that is going to resonate with the general public. And if you keep on doing the same thing, generating very poor results, then you're never going to get anywhere. So musically, diversify.
Even change the instrument that you play. Who would have realised that Ant was a better bassist than a drummer?
Who knows?
Thanks, Ant.
Thanks, Ant.
So, right, moving on to, which one are we on to now?
Number 4.
Number 4. There's not enough activity.
It's hard to get excited about something if there's very little going on. We're constantly talking about people and bands and artists that we see from afar, and their social media channels, they're not updated for weeks on end. And if you're expecting people to be following your musical career and to be avidly consuming the things that you publish on social media and the music that you're releasing, if all this is very sporadic, if you can't be bothered to make it almost the equivalent of a full-time concern, and to be constantly looking to release content and entertain and engage with their audience, it's like, why should I be bothered? If you're not bothered, why should I, as a listener, be bothered about you?
When Facebook gives you the opportunity to create video content, like via Facebook Live, why would you then write a post saying that you've been really busy with your band and show no evidence of being really busy?
We are storytellers of our own lives. If you're not constantly telling the story of yourself as a DIY artist or musician, then you're missing out. I mean, social media is there to inform, educate, and entertain. And if you're not doing that on a regular basis with your audience, then they're not really. They're not going to be bothered.
May I add, I only know that from looking at a post. You might say that they were successful because I saw that post. I was saying, no, I only follow them just to see how badly they get things.
Imagine you were to turn on the television or the radio and you tune into a channel and they said, "Oh, I've not really got anything for you today because there's nothing. There's nothing going on. We couldn't find any decent programs, so it might have something on in a couple of days."
It'll be like Netflix going, "We've been really busy.
Yeah,
we've got loads of stuff
coming up."
Any examples? No.
No.
Just have to take our word for it.
So you have to be active. You have to, in order for people to take an interest in you, you have to be doing interesting things. So you've got to keep at it. And I'm sure we've said this before on the show. You are a media company. You've got to be creating media, creating content, showing people what you're up to, what you're about, engaging with your audience. And the more you do that, the better chance of overall success you will have.
Definitely. So, sorry, it's just my phone's on silent, but it was ringing, so I've just turned it off. With my watch, I know. How cool is that?
Modern technology. Oh, and the last one's a big one.
I think we've discussed this in the past.
We have, but it's still a point that bears, making again and again, and the repetition is key.
Yep. You have no marketing plan.
You have no marketing plan. Be honest with your Uncle Sheldon. We're friends now. Every single thing that you release, whether it's a piece of music, a music video, a gig, a tour, each one of those should have an individual marketing plan detailing how you're actually going to get it in front of and under the noses of people for them to watch it or listen to it or to buy a ticket to come out and do it.
I do think, actually, thinking about all the local-ish bands that I follow on Facebook, I don't think any of them They literally just come out with, oh, we've got a vinyl out or a single out. There's absolutely no marketing plan at all.
So, as of yesterday, we sold out, I think it was the second largest show of the year, which is 620 people. That show's in about 4 weeks' time. And that show and all the other shows on our current and future tours have an individual marketing plan from the moment, well, in fact, from before the show goes on sale, right up to the actual date of the show, if there are still tickets to buy. And over a period of how many weeks that might be, there are individual activities that need to be conducted at certain times in order for that show to be brought to people's attention, in order for them to buy a ticket. And if you don't have a marketing plan for each particular aspect of your music career in terms of releases or shows, then you can't expect these things to watch themselves or for people to magically appear at a music venue several miles away from from where you are now to where you're going to be playing on Friday or Saturday night. Things don't happen by themselves. You have to write a plan for the things that you want to happen, action that plan, and if you do that, chances are more things will happen than if they don't.
So, quick question for you.
Carry on.
You can't give your normal response now.
Go on.
So, in terms of with your marketing plans that you are, you're proper on it.
Yes.
Has the shows that you've done over the years,
Yes.
taking out the account of inflation,
Yes.
have you been able to raise your ticket price?
Oh, yeah, very much so.
So would you be willing to say now where they started at and where they are now per show, or is that?
No, the very first gig we did was £3.
£3?
12 years ago. That was far too cheap. We sold out that night. And
is that the one day?
Wish we charged a £5. Standing prices are about 15. That's an absolute bargain. Some of our seated shows are about £17 plus booking fee. Again, an absolute bargain. But
that's increased 6 times.
One thing that ticket price can be.
Okay, costs would have increased too.
Yeah, you should see the beer on our rider. Ticket price is dictated by several things. It's dictated too by demand. Myself and my colleagues are always talking about these bigger bands who play stadiums and are able to charge £200. But the thing is, if you sell out that stadium, then it doesn't matter what you charge. No. You charge what the market will bear to some degree. So
awareness will help increase the value that your commodity is worth.
But very briefly, if you're a DIY artist, the value of your ticket price will be dictated to primarily by the demand there are for those tickets. So if there's very little demand, then you can't necessarily go around charging £20 a ticket. It will also be dictated to by the value that is perceived by your audience. So if you build up a strong online relationship with that audience, that means you can potentially charge more for your ticket price. And there is, of course, a real world cost in terms of paying the acts on the bill, booking the venue, and the bill rolling in the cost of the marketing of that particular show. So the company that I work for, our ticket price has to reflect maybe guarantees that are requested by the artist in question, the cost of hiring that particular venue rather than another venue, and then and again the cost of marketing that show. So that will have some bearing on that. But again, you can't necessarily go around as a DIY artist saying, right, it's £25 a ticket.
Well, you could,
but there has to be one of those factors involved within that. So in other words, if those tickets are in high demand, then potentially that's one way. If you've built up an online relationship with your audience, you can potentially charge more for what you do than if that wasn't the case.
So a marketing plan is useful in a million different ways. So, in summary,
yes. So again, it is all about self-awareness, trying to identify the areas in which you're currently not performing as well as you could be.
Just say it as it is, where you're going wrong.
And then if you know where you're going wrong, can you alter things as necessary, maybe in terms of marketing plan, maybe in terms of trying to change the genre that you're in, or what's probably more pertinent, improving the quality of your songs / your recorded material. Because I think for most people, again, the amount of stuff that I listen to that's been released, even by some of my favourite artists, and you think, oh, really? Is this the best that you've got? So again, this is not me having a go in any way, shape or form, but your songs do have to be the best that they can possibly be.
And that sometimes, I mean, and even when they're good right from the start, it was no guarantee that it took, I mean, Aha's Take On Me, I think took 4 or 5 releases before it became a hit. So even when it's a good song, it doesn't.
And even Aha, I've only really had one Take On Me.
Oh, Sun Always Shines on
say
TV.
Take On Me's there, Sunshine on TV, Hunting High and Low. It's like they've only had one.
They wrote the best Bond theme tune, Living Daylights.
We're going to have to stop this podcast now. You don't want to see blood.
Anyway,
you don't want to hear Greg's bones crunching on the podcast.
He likes the Madonna one.
So, do any of these resonate with you at home?
Write in the comments beneath.
I know it's tough love. Sheldon's tough love, but I do think that it's better rather than giving up if you can identify some of these and address it and
swallow
make changes.
your pride.
Hopefully, isn't that good that if you can identify your potential weaknesses to make yourself stronger and make yourself better, that's fantastic. Adopt that to improve. Start doing better.
Anyway, so hashtag Music Marketing Mondays. We will see you on Monday.
See you next week.
Thanks.
Ta-da.
Bye.